When a name becomes famous, the story doesn't stop with the person who earned it. It follows their children into childhood, adulthood, and the quiet decisions no headlines ever capture. In 2025, Mel Gibson's 9 children are living very different lives, shaped by the same lesson. When the world gets loud, the safest move is often to step back. Some chose visibility. Some chose silence. Some stayed close to the industry. Others walked away entirely. But all of them learned how to live with a last name the world already thinks it understands. In this video, we'll walk through each of their lives, one by one, and explore the patterns that connect them beneath the surface. If you appreciate thoughtful stories about classic Hollywood and the people behind the fame, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin with Part 1. Part 1. Hannah Gibson. The first to carry the weight. Hannah Gibson learned early that fame doesn't only brighten a room, it can also drain it. As the eldest, she grew up close enough to her father's public life to understand its rhythm. Admiration, scrutiny, then the sudden swing into judgment. Over time, she developed a steady instinct for distance. When the world leaned in, she leaned back. That quiet movement, one step away from the noise, became the first pattern in this family. The first rule no one had to say out loud. In 2025, what stands out about Hannah is not a need to compete with celebrity, but a refusal to let it define her. She has often been described as choosing work that feels tangible and grounded, something built by hand, shaped with patience, and protected from spectacle. People who grow up under a famous name sometimes crave attention the way others crave air. Hannah appears to crave something else, steadiness, and when the family's story gets retold, she remains the same familiar presence in the margins, seen but not performed. Part 2. Edward Gibson. The craft, not the spotlight. Edward Gibson carries the family name with a kind of restraint that feels learned rather than natural. When a parent is publicly celebrated and publicly criticized, children often inherit an invisible homework assignment. Figure out who you are without becoming an extension of anyone else. Edward's answer has often looked like craft over clout, effort over applause. If he moves near the film world, it's frequently imagined as the quieter side of it. Learning, building, working where a person's value is measured by reliability rather than recognition. The callback returns here. When curiosity grows louder, Edward grows more careful. He does not seem interested in winning public attention. He seems interested in keeping his life intact. That choice can look boring to outsiders, but to someone raised in permanent visibility, privacy can feel like the most valuable inheritance of all. Part 3. Christian Gibson. The decision to stay private. Christian Gibson represents a different kind of strength, the strength to refuse the role people assign you. In a celebrity family, the public often writes a script before anyone speaks. The son of is expected to become a headline, a copy, a continuation. Christian's path has often been understood as a refusal of that script. He appears to have chosen a quieter lane, one that doesn't require the performance of a public identity. And again, the pattern repeats. Step back. Not as a dramatic statement, not as a rebellion, but as a practical boundary. If the outside world insists on turning family into content, Christian's response is to give it less material. It's a subtle form of control, one of the only controls available to people who didn't ask to be famous in the first place. Part 4. William and Louis Gibson. Normal as a deliberate choice. William Gibson and Louis Gibson have often been associated with a life that is, by celebrity standards, almost stubbornly ordinary. That ordinariness is not accidental. It reads like a decision made over years. Keep things small enough to protect, simple enough to manage, quiet enough to breathe. For families touched by public storms, normal becomes more than a preference. It becomes a shelter. William and Louis, in the way people speak about them, seem to value the kind of routines that don't become stories. A job, a home, relationships that don't need an audience. And whenever interest intensifies, the old family reflex appears. Step back, close the curtains, let the noise pass by outside. In 2025, this looks less like hiding and more like maturity. They're not rejecting their father. They're refusing to be swallowed by the world's idea of him. Part 5. Milo Gibson. Being seen, but not consumed. Milo Gibson is the child most likely to be recognized on sight. With acting credits and a more visible public footprint, he stands closer to the industry than several of his siblings. Yet even here, the family's repeated pattern doesn't disappear. It adapts. Visibility can be managed. A career can exist without a full surrender of private life. Milo's situation is often misunderstood by outsiders. They assume that stepping into acting means embracing celebrity as a lifestyle. But there's another possibility, that he treats acting as a job, one that comes with publicity. Yes, but not necessarily with confession. The callback remains consistent. Appear, then retreat. Show up for the work, then return to the life that belongs to him. There's a particular kind of pressure on the publicly visible child in a famous family. People compare. They measure. They ask whether the child has it, whether the child is like the parent. Milo's quieter boundaries can be read as an answer. He doesn't need to become a replica. He only needs to become himself. Part 6. Thomas Gibson, the quietest form of self-protection. Thomas Gibson has often been described as the most private of the group. In many families, privacy is a preference. In families shaped by fame, privacy can become a discipline. Thomas's apparent absence from public life isn't an empty space. It's a choice that takes effort to maintain. There is a difference between being ignored and choosing not to participate. Thomas's quietness reads like the second option. It carries a message without saying it. You don't get access simply because you're curious. The callback returns once more. Step back. Close the door. Keep what matters inside. In 2025, that choice can look almost radical. The modern world rewards oversharing. It treats personal life as currency. Thomas's refusal is not merely a boundary. It's an insistence that a person is not a product. Part 7. Lucia Gibson and Angel Gibson. Childhood guarded on purpose. With Lucia Gibson and Angel Gibson, the family's approach becomes clearest. Protect the young. The youngest children grow up in a different era, one where attention is instant, permanent, and easily weaponized. A single photo can become a story. A single story can become a label. So the family's old reflex becomes even more deliberate. Their public appearances are rare, brief, controlled. Not because the family is ashamed, but because childhood is fragile. The outside world consumes narratives quickly, and it rarely gives them back untouched. The repeated pattern, appear, then retreat, becomes a form of care. It says, they are not here for you. They are here for themselves. And in that, a quiet truth emerges. The later chapters of a celebrity's life often come with less performance and more protection. With Lucia and Angel, the family seems to choose a smaller circle, a safer pace, a quieter home. Part 8, 2025, the shared truth behind 9 different lives. By 2025, the most honest way to describe Hannah, Edward, Christian, William, Lua, Milo, Thomas, Lucia, and Angel is not as Mel Gibson's kids, but as 9 individuals who have learned the same survival skill: boundaries. Some of them have moved near the public world. Some have moved far away from it. Some are seen. Some remain almost entirely unknown. Yet the same callback repeats through every path. When the noise rises, they step back. When the world demands a statement, they offer silence. When curiosity becomes entitlement, they close the door. That repetition is not emptiness, it is pattern, and pattern becomes character. It suggests a family shaped by the understanding that fame does not only touch the person who earns it, it touches spouses, children, and grandchildren, often without asking permission. And so these 9 lives, in their different ways, share a single quiet ambition: to be more than a headline. The truth about their lives now is not scandal, not spectacle, not a string of dramatic twists. The truth is simpler and, in its own way, more human. They are building lives that can survive attention by refusing to live for it.